Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I just got home from Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort a couple of weeks ago and I have a lot of thoughts. So I thought it would be fun to share my top pros and cons of this resort. And I also put up a question box over on Instagram where you guys could submit some questions you had about this resort. And we have a lot to talk about. Before we jump into it, my name is Bekah. If you are new, I'm so glad you're here. I share all kinds of Disney planning content, tips for taking a toddler to Disney World, as well as vlogs from our latest Disney adventures. So I would love for you to click that subscribe button and stick around for all kinds of Disney magic. But let's go ahead and jump into the pros and cons of Caribbean Beach. Let's start with the pros of Caribbean Beach because those are way more fun to talk about. So the first pro of this resort, and it's probably the most obvious, is that you have access to the Skyliner. That is the #1 reason that Caribbean Beach has become so popular. There are 4 resorts that are on the Skyliner route. You have Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach, and the Riviera. So you have 2 values, 1 moderate, and a deluxe. The one nice thing that sets Caribbean Beach apart from the other Skyliner resorts is that you have direct access to both Skyliner stations. So you have access to the main hub that's at Caribbean Beach. That'll take you directly to Hollywood Studios. And then you also have access to the Riviera Skyliner that takes you directly to Epcot. So that is a huge pro of Caribbean Beach that none of the other Skyliner resorts have, is that you have access to both Skyliner stations. And depending on which section of the resort you're staying at, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute, but depending on where you're located at the resort, you might be closer to one Skyliner station than the other. Like one might be just a 5-minute walk away, and then the other might be a 15 to 20-minute walk if you're on the opposite end of the resort. If you're staying in the Aruba section like we were actually right in the middle. So we were about an 8-minute walk to the Riviera Skyliner, and then maybe a 10 to 15-minute walk to the Skyliner hub at Caribbean Beach. So that was really nice that we were kind of smack dab in the middle, and depending on which park we were going to, we kind of got to choose which Skyliner station was going to be a better fit for where we were going. So huge pro of this resort, and I fell in love with the Skyliner. It was so nice. I'm typically a monorail resort girl, but I fell in love with the Skyliner on this trip. The next pro of Caribbean Beach is that it is so kid-friendly. And I realize that all Disney resorts are kid-friendly, but there are a few features at Caribbean Beach that I think makes this resort stand apart specifically for small kids. So the first thing is their splash pads. You have this incredible pool with a slide, and then for littler ones, you have the splash pad that has this really fun pirate ship theme to it, and my toddler loved it, and we spent quite a bit of time there. Another kid-friendly area is right in the center of the resort. There's this little island that connects all the sections right in the middle, and you have this incredible playground. And this is something that not all Disney resorts have. Surprisingly, you would think every resort would have a playground for kids, but they don't. And this resort not only has a playground, but it's a pretty incredible playground. So a really fun, spacious area. And this playground connects to this little open hub grassy area. And this is where they do movies on the lawn at night. And you have this beautiful view of the Riviera and the Skyliner and the water. I mean, it's just beautiful, but it's open to anyone to spend time there all day long. So the one nice thing about this area is we just spent a lot of time exploring on this little island, and there's lots of little like coves and nooks and all kinds of really cool places to explore. But this area was really, really fun. And this would be a perfect spot to grab your quick service lunch to go and bring it to this area. And you have all this open space for your little ones and your kids to run and play. And it's connected right to the playground, and you have this beautiful view, and I don't know, it was just a really nice spot. And I think a hidden gem at this resort during the daytime specifically, because it can fill up at night when you have movies under the stars going on. But apart from that, it's pretty much empty during the day, and they have lawn chairs laid out. And anyway, it's a really great spot. So the splash pad, the playground, lots of open areas for you to explore. And then honestly, I just felt like Caribbean Beach was a great resort where I could let my toddler out of the stroller, let her kind of run and play, and I didn't didn't feel like I was gonna lose her or anything like that. I didn't feel like she had to be strapped into the stroller at every moment because it was so crowded. It just felt very toddler friendly, and I really enjoyed that about Caribbean Beach. The next pro is the proximity to the Riviera. Now, we were staying in the Aruba section, so again, it was about an 8-minute walk over to the Riviera, and we loved being so close to this resort. The Riviera is probably one of my favorites. It makes my top list for sure, and it was so nice having access to their quick service, and just being able to explore the resort is really, really fun. They have a really great coffee shop up on the main level in their lobby that we got to take advantage of one morning. Of course, you can't take advantage of their splash pad or their pools or their fitness center or anything like that, but you can take advantage of their dining. Mobile order at their quick service. You have this really great lounge called Bar Riva, their coffee shop, and then of course Topolino's on the top floor with that amazing character breakfast and incredible dinner. So it really broadens your dining options when you're staying at Caribbean Beach because you also have access to everything at the Riviera as well. So loved being so close. That is a huge pro to this resort for sure. The next pro to staying at Caribbean Beach is the tropical theming. Now, I am a beach girl, so staying at this resort made me feel right at home. I loved walking around and just listening to the music, and you have the water and the hammocks and the beach and the palm trees and the bright colors. The ambiance here gets a 10 out of 10 from me. I loved the vibe of this resort, just walking up to get a drink at Banana Cabana, and you have music playing in the background, and I don't know, I really loved it. So if that's the kind of vibe that you like, and you like the tropical, fun, bright theming, this resort definitely checks that box. And the last pro to Caribbean Beach is the dining options. So I know I mentioned all the dining options that you have access to over at Riviera, but you also have quite a bit over at Caribbean Beach, of course. So in the main building where you check in, you have Centertown Market, which is their quick service. That's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You also have this little grab and go area as well. And then right outside near the pool, you have Banana Cabana. And this is more of a lounge bar type situation. So it's not something that you would make a reservation for. It's walk up only. They have a pretty small menu, but it's great if you are spending the day at the pool and you just want to grab a drink. And then right next door to Banana Cabana, you have Sebastian's, which is their sit-down restaurant that you would need to make a reservation for. I personally did not get to try this one out. Hopefully next time. Their menu is a prefixed meal, and after looking at the menu, I knew that it wasn't going to be something that my 3-year-old was going to be interested in, and because of that prefix pricing, it was going to be a little more expensive for a kid's meal. So at least right now, it's not gonna be a good fit for me and my toddler, but if it was just me and my husband, the food looks incredible. And again, the theming and the whole vibe of the restaurant is really fun. I got to walk by a few times and just kind of peek in the window and wish that I was eating there. But again, hopefully next time, but it's a great option if you like food that's a little more exotic and, you know, kind of branching out from your typical burger and pizza. And lastly, you have Spyglass Grill, which is a poolside quick service location. They only serve a breakfast and lunch. I believe they close around 4 or 5 p.m., but this is a great option if you are spending the day at the pool or you're coming back for a quick lunch break or something like that. This would be another great one. This one is located in the Trinidad section. So it is nice that they have dining options at the other end of the resort. So if you're staying in Trinidad, you don't have to trek all the way back to the main area of the resort to get some food. You do have an option over there as well. You also have a Joffrey's location that is located at the main hub Skyliner station. So this is really nice if you want to grab a quick coffee or a donut on your way to the Skyliner as you are headed off to Hollywood Studios or Epcot. So another pro of that Skyliner hub is that you do have a Joffrey's location there. Let's move on to the cons of this resort. So just like there are so many amazing things about Caribbean Beach, there are also some not so great things about this resort as well. The first con is that it is very spread out. You are going to do a lot of walking, and this is probably the most well-known thing about Caribbean Beach, and probably the biggest drawback to this resort is how large it actually is. The length of time that you'll be walking is really gonna be dependent on which building you're staying in. So I know I mentioned that we were in the Aruba section, so we were about an 8-minute walk to the main building and the main pool, about an 8-minute walk over to Riviera and that Skyliner station, and then about a 10 to 15-minute walk over to the main Skyliner hub on the other end of the resort. So that was kind of the walking proximity time distance that it took us in Aruba. But if you are staying in Trinidad, which is the furthest section away, you're looking at about a 15-minute walk to the main check-in area. Again, it all depends on which building you're staying in, but personally, I went into our trip knowing that everything was spread out. I knew that Caribbean Beach was a large resort. I knew we were gonna do a lot of walking, so I came prepared for it. So it didn't feel quite as much of a shock when it took us 10 minutes to get somewhere. I knew that we were gonna be walking a little bit. And I think because, like I mentioned earlier, that I loved the atmosphere of the resort, you really get to take in the ambiance when you're walking, and it kind of distracts you a little bit from that 10 to 15-minute walk of wherever you're headed to. So that was one really nice thing about the walk. You know, it's a really pretty walk. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous resort, but I think go into your trip knowing that it's a large resort and that you are going to be walking a little bit. Another thought I had was, for instance, if you're staying at the boardwalk or the yacht club, some of those rooms, if you're staying at the farthest end of the resort, that can also be a 10-minute walk from the main lobby down to your room. So the only difference is you are walking in a hallway at boardwalk as compared to, you know, this beautiful tropical theming at Caribbean Beach. Of course, there's no protection from the elements. That's another con as well. If you are walking and you are getting back from a long park day and it's pouring down rain and you have a 10-minute walk to your building, you will be walking 10 minutes in the rain. So that's kind of the other downside of the long walk. If it's beautiful weather, it's great. If it's 100 degrees and humid, maybe not so great. But again, just know that going into your trip, it's a very large resort and you will do quite a bit of walking. The next con to Caribbean Beach is that there are no elevators. Now, the buildings only have a first and second floor, but if you are on the second floor and you have a stroller, you will have to break down that stroller and carry it up and down the stairs every day. Thankfully, I have a pretty small, compact stroller, so it wasn't too much of a hassle. But if you have a double stroller with multiple kids, I can see how that would be less than ideal. Another reason would be if you have mobility issues and getting up and down stairs multiple times a day isn't gonna be a great fit for you. This may not be the right resort for you. I did request a ground floor room and they weren't able to fulfill that request. So typically this would be the part where I would say, make sure to request a ground floor room if that's something you need, but I didn't get that request fulfilled. So you basically have a 50-50 chance, even if you do request a ground floor room, you still may end up on the second floor. So be prepared for that and know that you may have to carry your stroller up and down the stairs multiple times a day. One nice thing about our luggage is that Bell Services did carry our luggage up and down the stairs for me. So that was really nice. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just more so the day-to-day of going up and down the stairs multiple times when you come back for nap time and then you're headed back out for dinner. Oh, we forgot something. We got to go back up to the room, and you know. So definitely a con is the fact that they have no elevators. The next con to staying at Caribbean Beach is about transportation. So I know we've talked about the Skyliner and how amazing it is. You have direct access to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, but what about Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom, and Disney Springs? Your only option for those three locations is the bus. And the bus isn't horrible in and of itself, but what makes the bus specifically not so great here at Caribbean Beach is that you have lots of stops around what we've talked about to be a very large resort. So that internal bus loop can take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes just to make it all the way around the resort. So depending on what building you're in, where you're located, you could be that first stop, and then you have 15 to 20 minutes of stops of picking up everyone else around the resort before before you take off to get to Magic Kingdom. For us, staying in the Aruba section, we were the last pickup stop, which was really nice. So it was about a 5-minute walk down to our bus stop, which really wasn't that bad. And I think the longest we ever waited for a bus was maybe 10 minutes. So again, not bad at all. But by the time our bus got to our stop, we were getting on to a very full bus. So many times we didn't have a seat and you're shoulder to shoulder trying to hold on to your toddler and your stroller, and so it's not the greatest bus ride because you're getting onto a very full bus. But the nice thing was that we were able to go straight to Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom or wherever you're headed if you are that last pickup stop. So you may be getting onto a very full bus, but at least you're done making all the stops and you go straight on to wherever your destination is. But on the flip side to that, if you are in the Aruba section and you are coming home from Magic Kingdom, you will have the 15 to 20 minute drive back from Magic Kingdom plus the 15 to 20 minutes of stops all the way around the resort. So what we did was we actually took the Riviera bus and got off at their bus stop, and then we had that 8-minute walk over to our room. So that was our strategy, staying in the Aruba section specifically, but if we had been in any other section, we probably would have had to come up with a different strategy. So keep that in mind if you are planning to spend a lot of time at Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, or Disney Springs. The buses can be a little bit of a hassle because you have that long internal bus loop. The buses can be crowded and you just have to make a lot of stops. So be prepared for that, but it's definitely a con that you have such limited transportation options to those 3 locations. And the last con to Caribbean Beach is the rooms. Right now, the Trinidad section is the only section that has been renovated, and those rooms have been updated. They look great, and we actually did request one of those updated rooms. They weren't able to fulfill that request either. So none of my requests were able to be fulfilled, which is, totally fine. That is something to keep in mind, that the Trinidad section is the only section that has been updated. And as far as I know right now, from what I've heard, this could of course change, but they are not planning to continue updating the other sections, which kind of is strange to me because those rooms are dated and they could definitely use some love. And to me, the vibe of the room doesn't match the vibe of the resort. The rooms feel a little dark. The theming is pretty minimal. If I didn't know what resort I was at and I had never been in this room before, I probably would have no idea that I was at Disney or at a Caribbean themed resort. So, if the room is important to you, it's not the greatest. The other thing that I would add about these rooms is that the bathrooms are very small. So they are larger than Value Resort. So if you're used to staying at All Stars or Pop, this is gonna be a huge upgrade square footage wise. But one thing I found was specifically the toilet and bathtub shower area. There is no room. So getting my daughter in and out of the bathtub was a little bit of a struggle. Just there was no room for me to help her take a bath. I'm right there by the toilet, and then you have the door right here, and then there's no space in front of me. So it just felt like a tight squeeze trying to help her in and out of the bath. So that's something to also keep in mind. Just the minimal space in that area as well seems smaller than other resorts. So that would be the con. The biggest con, in my opinion, to the rooms would be the theming and the small bathrooms. All right, that wraps up the pros and cons portion of this video. Let's move on to answering some of the questions that you guys asked over on Instagram. I'm pretty sure I answered the majority of these questions in the pros and cons and kind of everything that we've already talked about. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna skim through some questions that maybe I haven't touched on yet. There's a couple of questions of people wanting me to compare Caribbean Beach to Coronado Springs. And I have stayed at Coronado about 3 times, once in the Grand Destino Tower and then twice in other buildings at the resort. So I would say the biggest difference would be the transportation, is that Coronado, you don't have any transportation perks. So at least at Caribbean Beach, you have the Skyliner to Epcot and Hollywood Studios, but at Coronado, you have buses to everything. Another difference is that Coronado is slightly smaller. It's still a large resort. You're still gonna do a lot of walking at Coronado, but it's not quite as spread out as Caribbean Beach is. So everything is a little more centrally located at Coronado. So that would be the biggest difference. You also have elevators at Coronado. So that's another perk that you don't have at Caribbean Beach. And then I would also say the rooms at Coronado are a little more updated than the rooms at Caribbean Beach. So those are some of the main differences that I can think of right off the top of my head. But if I had to pick between Caribbean Beach and Coronado, I would probably still pick Caribbean Beach. I just really enjoy the atmosphere over there. It feels a little more kid-friendly. And then of course you have the Skyliner that I have completely fallen in love with. So probably Caribbean Beach would be my pick over Coronado, but Coronado definitely has some pros that Caribbean Beach doesn't have. So it's really just weighing what's gonna be more of a priority for your family. This next question, going in early May and staying hopefully in Aruba, would you use Riviera for food, etc. instead? And personally, after experiencing both the quick service at Riviera and then also the Centertown Market for lunch, I would probably spend more time at Riviera. Their food, their quick service Primo Piatto is probably my favorite quick service on Disney property. It is so good. Just so many things. Everything on their menu is so good. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, like everything. So if I was staying in the Aruba section again, hands down, I would be over at Riviera for Primo Piatto for every meal. And I should add too that Centertown Market at Caribbean Beach, it wasn't bad. I got their fish tacos and I think I said on our travel day vlog that I would give it a 6 out of 10 or 6.5 out of 10. I can't remember, but it was just okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. But the food at Primo Piatto is great. So if you're looking for just a meal, something quick to grab, you know, at Caribbean Beach, Centertown Market is just fine. But if you are looking for really, really good food, head over to Primo Piatto. All of their stuff, oh, so good. How long were the lines for the Skyliner in the mornings and afternoons? So we took advantage of both Skyliner stations. I think I mentioned that we were right in the middle. So we had about an 8-minute walk over to the Riviera Skyliner and then a 10 to 15-minute walk over to the main hub Skyliner station. And we did early entry a couple of mornings, like we were out the door by 7:30, 7:45. So we were at the Skyliner station by, you know, right before 8 a.m. and the lines were not bad at all. I was actually very surprised. Now, if we had been there during Christmas or maybe middle of summer or fall break or, you know, some other busy time of year, I wonder if it would feel different. But, and you'll see in the vlogs, when we walk up, you know, at 8 a.m., we waited maybe 5 minutes was the longest wait we had, but most of the time we just walked right on to the next open gondola and there was no wait at all. So I don't know if that was because we were there during a not so busy time of year or if 8 a.m. just people aren't taking the Skyliner at 8 a.m. and not that many people do early entry. I'm not sure, but at least for us, the wait was very minimal. And then especially in the afternoons, there was never really a line. There's quite a bit of people coming in and out, but because it moves pretty quick, a line never really gets backed up or anything like that. So I wouldn't be worried about any crazy long line. Is there a way to get a room in a preferred location? If so, how and where is that? So yes, that's actually a room category that you can book. So we had booked a standard view and that's what put us in the Aruba section because it's the farthest away from the main pool and check-in area and dining and all of that, but you're also close to the Riviera and the Skyliner. So to me, it felt like we were in the preferred section, not in the standard section. So I believe if you book a preferred room, it's gonna put you close to the main check-in area and the pool and the dining. So I don't know, maybe book standard. Depending on what your preferences are, what you wanna be close to, a standard view might actually be a better room. I don't know, I really enjoyed being close to the Riviera and really close to the Skyliner. I didn't mind having an 8-10 minute walk over to the pool and the quick service. But if that's really important to you, then definitely book the preferred room category. Okay, this next one, do you get extended evening hours at the parks? And no, sadly, you do not get extended evening hours at Caribbean Beach because it is a moderate resort. Extended evening hours are exclusively for deluxe resorts, but you do get to take advantage of that early theme park entry, entering the park 30 minutes before any other guest. Do both Skyliners take you to Hollywood Studios and Epcot? So yes, I should have clarified the two different Skyliner stations. So you have the main hub, and that is gonna take you anywhere. So you could even go visit Art of Animation or Pop Century from the hub. It'll take you directly to Hollywood Studios, and you can get on and it'll take you over to Epcot. You are going to do a little loop down at the Riviera station, but you do not have to get out of your gondola. It's just gonna do a little loop and kind of slow down there, and then you'll go directly to Epcot. If you get on at the Riviera Skyliner station and you want to go to Hollywood Studios, it'll take you across the entire resort. So maybe you don't want to walk the 15 minutes from, one end of the resort to the other. You can get on at the Riviera Skyliner and it'll take you over to the hub. You will have to exit your gondola and get into a new line that'll take you to a different route, if that makes sense. So the hub is kind of where all those transfers happen, but you can get anywhere you want to go from either Skyliner station. It'll just vary on if you have to get out or if you will have to just make that little loop and keep going. I hope that makes sense. Are there pop water ice machines at each place, or do we have to go to the main building? Yes, there are vending machines and ice machines at each building. So no matter where you're staying at this resort, you will have direct access to those, and they even have them on each floor. So that's really nice as well. Is this a good resort day resort? Is there enough to do to fill a non-park day? And I think so. There was one day on our last park day, Ellie and I started the day at Magic Kingdom. We came back for nap time and then spent the rest of the day at the resort. Although we weren't there the entire day at the resort, I really think we could have spent a full day at the resort and still had plenty to do, especially thinking about little ones and small kids, because you have the pool and the splash pad and the playground and lots of areas to explore, and you have so many dining options. You're super close to the Riviera. So there's really lots to do, especially if you love taking in the atmosphere of wherever you're at. So there's lots of beach areas with hammocks if you want to let your kids play in the sand. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I could have spent all day probably just walking around and checking out all of the details of this resort. And again, you have all the amenities and the dining and, so yes, I think you could absolutely spend a resort day at this resort. Would you choose to stay here again or only in certain circumstances? This would probably be a certain circumstances kind of trip if we were to ever stay here again. I could see myself choosing Caribbean Beach if it was just me and Ellie and I wanted the ease of transportation with the Skyliner and the toddler friendly perks of this resort, like the splash pad and the playground and the dining and the Riviera, like we've been talking about. But if it's me and my husband and we're doing a family thing, or I'm traveling with my mom, or I've done a couple trips like that before, I probably wouldn't choose Caribbean Beach. It just wouldn't be my #1 pick, especially because I can rent DVC points for sometimes the same cost, and I get better amenities and better location, better transportation options. So I think for those reasons, I don't know if I see myself choosing Caribbean Beach, again, because of the price point. But if the price was significantly lower and I would save, a good chunk of money to stay at this resort, then that would be a case where I probably would choose this resort. If this was a budget trip and I found a good deal and, again, I wanted the ease of transportation being on the Skyliner, it was just me and Ellie. So yes, under certain circumstances, maybe I would stay here again, but on future trips, this probably wouldn't be my first pick. All right, I'm gonna end it there. I'm pretty sure all of the other questions should have been answered in the pros and cons portion earlier on in this video, but if your question did not get answered, please leave that down below in the comments. I would love to chat with you more about this resort and answer any questions. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you are subscribed if you want to see more of our time at Caribbean Beach. I have lots of vlogs coming out soon, so you will definitely want to stick around for those. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up, and I think that's it. So thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.